Here at The Successful Musician, not only do I want to help young musicians develop the mindset and routines of success, I also want to share with you some of my stories that I've experienced in my career as a professional musician. So this one is going to be about when I got my first track or composition that I wrote on a TV show. And I want to go through the process about that, how I did it, and how I felt when I first heard it. But first we need a little kind of backstory. So I was in LA and I was finishing up my degree in studio jazz guitar at USC, or the University of Southern California. And even though it was a studio jazz program, we did do some studio work. It was focused more on jazz and learning a wide variety of styles. But when I got out of school, I was real anxious to start doing more recording. And I've done some recording, but hadn't done a lot. So I was doing anything that I could to record. And part of it was just finding people, which isn't hard in LA, that needed someone to play on their track, whether it was guitar or dobro or banjo or whatever it was. I was, looking for it. I was hungry, right? I wanted to do it. Well, I came across one guy, his name was Chris Frame, and he needed a guitar player or a lead guitar player on his country album. He also wanted a little bit of banjo and some slide guitar. So we connected, and when I met him, we just hit it off. We just had a good relationship. We had a good vibe with one another. So the first thing we did was we started recording on his album. And I think I played on 3 or 4 of his songs for that album. And it was a lot of fun. We had a great time, and he taught me a lot about recording as well in the process. This was using Pro Tools, and this is early on. I know when you say that, Pro Tools now is standard or Logic, but at the time, it was just starting to get really popular. And so I was like, hey, he's really good at recording. He's also a great musician. He could program drums and play bass and sing and guitar. I said, why don't we do some TV tracks? I was really interested in trying to get some music on TV. So I had found a connection. It was actually a guy on Craigslist that was looking for tracks for MTV, and that he wanted these songs in this certain style. And these were songs that were based off bands at the time like The Killers. And so he would give us a few samples and say, create some songs like this. So Chris and I got together and we just started writing these tracks. And we would just listen to these tracks, and then we'd come up with our own versions of them, different chords and different feel, and we started putting together all these TV tracks. Well, once you get in the creative flow, it just starts happening, and all of a sudden we got 1 track, and we got 2 tracks, and 3 tracks. And our goal when we were doing them was to have a lot of quick edits. So, we wouldn't just do the same pattern for, 30 seconds. We would do the same, progression for maybe 5 or 10 seconds and then switch it up or add another instrument. Because when they're cutting together the music for the TV, that they like to have a lot of different styles or little different instruments coming in or different things that they can cut into it to make it sound more interesting. So we were making these tracks, and it was so fun. I mean, we were just having a blast, hanging out all day, recording. Chris was programming the drums, I was playing the guitar parts, he was adding the bass and different things. And so we did these tracks, and we submitted to the guy, and he loved them. I mean, he really loved the tracks. And so a little bit of time went by, we didn't really hear anything, and then all of a sudden, he's like, hey, I got your songs placed in this particular show. And this particular one was for a show back then called Wild Boys, and that he had gotten some of our tracks placed in the show. What was really cool is that he let us know when it was going to air. And that night, we actually had band practice at my studio. And so the way it was I had a studio in the front part of my property, and then I lived in the house in the back. And so we had our band rehearsal, and then the band left, and Chris was driving home, and he was driving back to Venice, which is about 30-minute drive from where we were at. And I went upstairs and I started watching the TiVo, and sure enough, right? So we're watching the show, and I don't know where it is in this show, right? 20-minute show, I don't know where it is, so I'm just watching, anxiously waiting. And then all of a sudden, dun 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 dun, you hear our track pop into the thing, and the track sounded like this. I was ecstatic. I was so excited, like hearing our music and then seeing it on a show. So I called Chris, and Chris was like well on his way home, and I said, Chris, we got our song on the show. I'm listening to it right now, dude. It sounds awesome. You got to come back. So he was so excited. He turned around and drove all the way back. And when he got there, we were like, two kids in like Christmas time or at a candy shop, right? We were so excited. We're just like over and over, like listened to that song, and saw it. It just was like so exciting because it was a great accomplishment for us to, start from never doing anything for TV, and then all of a sudden we have this track on a TV show. Well, it was cool because we ended up getting a bunch more placements, although I don't know how many because he only let us know about that first show. He didn't let us know about all of them, but we ended up doing a bunch of placements, and then that also rolled into some other stuff. We ended up doing a theme song for a hockey team and just a bunch of little small things. So that was my first time that I had gotten a track on TV, and that was really cool because it was my first experience, and then since then I've gotten placements on different things, CBS, and do some Puma stuff, and it's just a fun way to make music, and it's part of the creative process. It's light, it's not super serious like if you're writing a song or something. It's just kind of fun. You're kind of emulating different songs, and that was it. So that was my first track that I got on TV.